I'm standing in my antique shop when I realize the woman browsing the Victorian jewelry case is wearing my perfume. Not similar to mine. Exactly mine. Joe Malone Wood Sage and Sea Salt, the same scent I've worn for 15 years. She turns around and my breath catches. She looks like me. Not identical but close enough that we could be sisters. Same honey blonde hair, same build, same style. And she's smiling at me like we share a secret. That's when I realize who she is. This is Elena, my ex-husband David's new wife. Now let me tell you something, honey. When your ex-husband remarries, you expect to have feelings about it. Maybe jealousy, maybe relief, maybe that strange little pang that comes from knowing someone else is sleeping in what used to be your bed. But what you don't expect is to see yourself staring back at you. I should have trusted my instincts that first day. Should have recognized the warning signs. But I told myself I was being paranoid, jealous even. Women always think their ex-husband has a type. I just didn't realize how literally David had chosen his type. Let me back up. My name is Miranda Rowe. I'm 43 years old and I own Rowe and Daughters Antiques right here in downtown Charleston. Been divorced from David Haversham for 5 years now. 5 years, 3 months and 16 days if we're being precise. Not that I'm counting. The divorce was civilized. That's the word everyone used. Civilized. Like we were countries negotiating a peace treaty instead of two people who'd spent 18 years together unraveling everything we'd built. David got the house in Mount Pleasant. I got the apartment above my shop and full custody of our daughter Charlotte. She's 20 now, away at Clemson studying art history. She's the best thing that came out of that marriage, and probably the only thing David and I still agree on. I thought I was past it all. Really, I did. I'd built a life that was entirely mine. I liked my independence. I liked my routines. I liked being alone. My days followed comfortable patterns. Morning coffee while cataloging new acquisitions. Afternoons with customers who appreciated history and craftsmanship. Evenings at home with wine and restoration projects. My best friend Tessa runs the bakery next door, Sweet Mercies. We share gossip and complaints about Charleston's summer heat. It's simple, it's safe, it's mine. But then Elena walked into my shop that Tuesday afternoon in late April. I looked up and there she was. At first I didn't recognize her. I'd never actually met David's new wife. Charlotte had mentioned her a few times. Said she seemed nice. Said Dad seemed happy. That was enough for me. I didn't need details. But the woman standing in my doorway was studying me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. She was dressed in flowing linen pants and a cream-colored blouse. Delicate gold jewelry at her throat and wrists. Her hair was pulled back in a loose bun, a few strands escaping around her face. I dress exactly like that. I wear my hair exactly like that. She smiled. Warm. Genuine. Or at least it looked genuine. Miranda Rowe, she said, her voice soft and pleasant. I've heard such wonderful things about your shop. Thank you, I said, trying to place her. Are you looking for anything in particular? Just browsing. She moved toward the jewelry case, her fingers trailing along the glass. I love antiques. There's something about objects with history, don't you think, the stories they carry? I relaxed a little. This was my language. Every piece has a story. Most of that history is boring. Estate sales, inheritance, the usual. But sometimes you find something special. Something that remembers. She looked up at me, and her eyes were bright with interest. Remembers. Objects absorb the energy of their owners, I explained. Good or bad. You learn to feel it when you work with them long enough. She nodded slowly, like I'd said something profound. Then, she held out her hand. I'm Elena Haversham. And there it was. My stomach dropped, but I kept my expression neutral. Years of Charleston society training, honey. You can smile through anything. Oh, I said, taking her hand. It was cool and dry. David's wife. Yes. She watched my face carefully. I hope this isn't too awkward. I've wanted to meet you for a while now. You're Charlotte's mother, after all. And David speaks of you often. Does he now, I thought? Out loud, I said, it's not awkward at all. Welcome to the shop. But it was awkward. because she was still holding my hand and I could smell my perfume on her skin, and up close the resemblance was even more unsettling. We had the same bone structure, the same coloring, even the same small scar above the right eyebrow. Mine was from falling off a horse when I was 12. I pulled my hand away gently. "How long have you and David been married?" I asked, even though I knew. Charlotte had told me. 2 years. 2 years this June, Elena said. We met at a gallery opening. He was there for work, I was there for the art. We started talking and just connected. "That's lovely," I said, and I meant it. Or I tried to mean it. "I'm glad he's happy. Are you?" She tilted her head, studying me again. "Happy, I mean." "You seem happy. This shop is beautiful. Charlotte says you've really built something special here." "I am happy," I said, and it was true. Mostly true. Starting over was hard, but I like my life now. Elena smiled again, but there was something in her eyes I couldn't quite read. Starting over. Yes. That's exactly what it is, isn't it? A chance to become someone new. The way she said it made my skin prickle again. She spent another 20 minutes in the shop asking questions about my inventory, my business, my life. She was pleasant, almost deferential, but her questions felt too personal, too probing. "Did you always want to work with antiques?" she asked. "My grandmother collected. I grew up around beautiful old things." "What made you choose Charleston over Savannah? Isn't that where you're from?" Charlotte wanted to stay close to her father. "Was it hard? Starting over after the divorce? Building this all by yourself?" I smiled tightly. I managed. When she finally left, she thanked me profusely. Said she'd be back. Said she'd love to learn more about the business. Said maybe we could have coffee sometime. I said that would be nice. And I meant that about as much as I'd meant everything else I'd said to her. After she left, I locked the door, flipped the sign to closed, and poured myself a very large glass of wine. Tessa found me an hour later, sitting behind the counter, staring at nothing. "Rough day?" she asked, settling onto the stool beside me. "Tessa's been my best friend since college. She's the only person in Charleston who knows all my secrets. And believe me, honey, I've got plenty. She's tall, black, beautiful, and the best baker south of the Mason-Dixon line. She's also got an uncanny ability to read my moods." "David's new wife came by," I said. Tessa's eyes widened. "Elena. Here. What did she want?" "To browse. To meet me. To ask strangely personal questions while wearing my exact perfume and looking disturbingly similar to me." "Similar how?" "Similar like David has a very specific type." Tessa poured herself some of my wine. "Okay, but lots of men have a type. That's normal. She had the same scar as me, Tessa. Above her right eyebrow." Tessa was quiet for a moment. "That's a coincidence. Is it, Miranda?" Tessa's voice was gentle but firm. "You're not being paranoid, but you're also not being rational. The scar thing is weird, I'll give you that. But maybe David just has a thing for a certain look. Blonde, elegant, cultured. That's his demographic." Over the next 3 weeks, Elena became a regular visitor to my shop. She'd drop by every few days, always friendly, always interested. She'd bring me coffee. My exact order. Iced Americano with oat milk and 1 pump of vanilla. From my regular cafe. "Charlotte mentioned this was your favorite," she'd say brightly. She asked about my life. About the shop's history. About Charleston. About antiques. And slowly, carefully, she'd weave in more personal questions. Where did I like to eat the ordinary down on Queen Street? What books was I reading? Historical fiction usually. Lots of Southern Gothic. Did I still take my morning walks through the Battery? Yes, every day at 7 o'clock. Each answer I gave, she'd nod, thoughtfully filing it away somewhere in that pretty blonde head. And I started noticing changes in her. She cut her hair shorter. Like mine. She started wearing more vintage jewelry. Like mine. She showed up at my yoga class, the one I'd been attending for 3 years. Said she'd heard great things about the instructor. I told myself I was being ridiculous. Charleston's a small city. We were bound to overlap. David had clearly told her things about me. They probably talked about me. That was normal, wasn't it? But then came the charity gala. Every year, the Charleston Historic Preservation Society throws a fundraiser. It's a big deal. Old money, new money, everyone who's anyone in Charleston society. I've been going for 15 years. It's good for business. And honestly, I enjoy dressing up and drinking expensive wine on someone else's dime. This year, the gala was held at the Gibbs Museum of Art. I wore a vintage emerald green silk gown I'd found at an estate sale in Beaufort. My grandmother's sapphire earrings. My hair up in a chignon. I was standing by the bar chatting with a potential client about a Georgian writing desk when someone tapped my shoulder. Miranda. I turned. It was Thomas Beckett, an architect I'd worked with on a few restoration projects. Tom, how are you? But he was looking at me strangely. I thought you just walked past me toward the garden. Didn't you hear me call your name? I've been right here for the last 20 minutes. He frowned. That's strange. I could have sworn. He trailed off, looking confused. A cold feeling settled in my stomach. What was this person wearing? A green dress. Hair up, looked just like you from behind. I excused myself and walked toward the garden. My heart was pounding. And there she was. Elena, wearing an emerald green silk gown, hair up in a chignon, sapphire earrings at her ears. She was talking to a group of people I knew, laughing, charming them. And from behind in the dim garden lighting, she could have been me. I stood there frozen, watching her move through my social circle like she belonged there. Like she was me. Tessa appeared at my elbow. Please tell me I'm hallucinating. You're not. Miranda, this is weird. This is really weird. I know. What are you going to do? Good question. What was I going to do? Confront her at a charity gala. Make a scene. Accuse my ex-husband's wife of what exactly dressing like me, having similar taste, that would make me look petty and jealous. So I did nothing. I smiled. I chatted. I pretended everything was fine. But when Elena caught my eye from across the garden and smiled at me, that smile was cold, calculated, like she wanted me to know exactly what she was doing. The next day, Charlotte called. Mom, I need to talk to you about something. Charlotte's voice had that tone. The one that meant she was worried but trying not to sound worried. What's wrong, baby? It's about Elena. And before you say anything, just listen, okay? My hand tightened on the phone. I'm listening. I was going through her Facebook. I know it's creepy. But Aunt Tessa mentioned that weird thing at the gala and I got curious. And, Mom, she's been going through your old photos. Like really old photos. From before the divorce. She's visiting places you posted about years ago. And she's recreating your pictures. My blood ran cold. What do you mean recreating? There's this photo you posted like 8 years ago. You were at the Battery sitting on that bench by the water reading. Remember, you were wearing that white sundress. It was sunset. I remembered. David had taken that photo. It was one of my favorites. Elena posted a photo 2 weeks ago. Same bench. Same time of day, same white sundress, same pose. The only thing different is her face. I felt sick. That's not all, Charlotte continued. There's the one from White Point Garden, the one at Rainbow Row, that coffee shop in Savannah you used to love. Mom, she's retracing your entire digital footprint. Has she said anything to you about me? She asks questions. Lots of questions. At first I thought she was just trying to get to know Dad's family. But now, I don't know, it feels wrong. Like she's studying you. After we hung up, I sat in my apartment for a long time staring out the window at the Charleston skyline. There's a word for what Elena was doing. I'd read about it in a true crime book once. Identity theft. Not the financial kind. The psychological kind. Where someone becomes so obsessed with another person that they try to become them. But why? Why me? What did she want? I decided it was time to do some research of my own. I started with social media. Elena's Facebook was public and Charlotte was right. My entire life was reflected there in her posts. Places I'd been. Things I'd done. Even quotes from books I'd read. She'd copy them word for word, posting them as her own thoughts. But there was something else. Something stranger. Her photos before she met David looked nothing like the photos after. Before she had long dark hair, different style, more bohemian, less polished. Less me. The transformation had started right after they got married. I dug deeper. Found her LinkedIn. Her maiden name was Elena Rodriguez. She'd worked as a graphic designer in Atlanta before moving to Charleston. No mutual friends. No obvious connection to David or our social circle. I called an old friend who worked in private investigation, asked him to do a background check. Nothing invasive, just the basics. What he found was interesting. Elena had changed her name twice. Once when she was 25 from Elena Martinez to Elena Rodriguez, then again at 30 back to Martinez, then Rodriguez again when she married David. That's unusual, my friend said. Not illegal, but unusual. People don't usually change their names that much unless they're running from something or trying to hide something. Any red flags, criminal record, restraining orders? Nothing. She's clean. But Miranda, be careful. Women who change their identities that often are either running from abuse or they're running from consequences. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Elena. About her questions. Her interest in my life. Her slow, careful transformation into me. And I kept thinking about David. My ex-husband is a successful commercial real estate developer. He's charming, handsome, well-connected. He's also controlling, manipulative. And during our marriage, he spent 18 years slowly molding me into his idea of the perfect wife. It started small. Suggestions about my hair, my clothes, the way I spoke at dinner parties. He'd say things like, "Don't you think you'd look better in blue? Or maybe don't talk so much about your shop. People find it boring." I didn't realize it was happening. It was so gradual. Like a frog in boiling water, honey. You don't notice the heat until you're cooked. By the time I woke up to what he'd done, I barely recognized myself. I'd become this perfectly polished, perfectly quiet version of Miranda. The one David wanted. Not the one I was. The divorce was my way out. My way back to myself. And it had taken 5 years to get there. Was David doing it again to Elena? And was she studying me to understand what he wanted, to become the perfect wife he'd tried to make me? Or was it something else? Something darker. I decided to find out. The next time Elena came into my shop, I was ready. She arrived on a Tuesday morning bringing me coffee as usual. But this time I'd made plans. "Elena, do you have a few minutes? There's a piece in the back I'd love to show you. I think you'd appreciate the history." Her eyes lit up. "I'd love that." I led her to the back room where I keep estate sale acquisitions before cataloging them. It's cramped full of furniture and boxes and most importantly private. I closed the door behind us. "So, what did you want to show me?" Elena asked, looking around. I didn't answer immediately, just studied her. She was wearing a cream linen dress. My style, my perfume, my earrings. Well, not my actual earrings, but identical to a pair I wore frequently. "Why are you doing this?" I asked quietly. She blinked. "Doing what?" "You know what, the clothes, the hair, the perfume, the photos, following me, copying me." For a long moment she didn't say anything, just looked at me with those clear blue eyes. Then slowly her expression changed. The pleasant mask slipped. "You noticed," she said. And she smiled. But it wasn't a friendly smile. "Of course I noticed. You weren't exactly subtle." I wasn't trying to be subtle. She moved closer and I fought the urge to step back. "I wanted you to notice. I wanted you to see. See what he does. What he's doing to me. What he did to you." I went very still. "I don't understand." Elena's eyes filled with tears, but her voice stayed steady. "David is controlling, manipulative, and he's obsessed with creating the perfect wife. During our entire marriage, he's been molding me, criticizing my choices, suggesting changes, showing me pictures of you." My breath caught. "Be more like this," she said, her voice dropping into a cruel imitation of David's. Miranda always understood. Miranda knew how to dress, how to speak, how to be. She looked at me, and the tears spilled over. "He wanted me to be you, Miranda, and I was trying so hard to be what he wanted. So I started researching you, to understand what made you perfect in his eyes. I felt like I'd been punched, Elena. But then I started seeing the patterns. The way he isolated you. The way he controlled your decisions. The way he talked about you. It's the same way he talks to me. About me. I realized he did it to you too. And now he's doing it to me. She pulled out her phone, her hands shaking, and showed me photos. Screenshots of text messages from David. They were awful. Controlling. Critical. Demanding. Why are you wearing that change? I told you not to go out with those friends. They're bad influences. You embarrassed me tonight. We'll discuss your behavior when I get home. I felt sick. Because I remembered getting text exactly like that. And I'd thought it was love. Thought it was him caring about me. There's more, Elena whispered. She pulled out a folder. A physical folder stuffed with papers. I found this in his study. She handed it to me and I opened it with trembling hands. Inside was documentation of my entire life since the divorce. Photos of me at the shop, at yoga, walking through the Battery. Receipts from restaurants I'd eaten at. Copies of my social media posts. A list of my friends. My clients. My schedule. David had been watching me. Stalking me. For 5 years. He never let go, Elena said softly. He's obsessed with you. With what he lost. With recreating you. And I'm just the canvas he's using. I looked up at her and I saw fear in her eyes. Real fear. I tried to leave, she whispered. Last month, I packed a bag and I got as far as the car. He found me. He took my keys. He told me if I left he'd ruin me. Destroy my reputation, take everything. He has evidence, he said. Photos. Messages. Things that would make me look unstable. Dangerous. That's abuse, Elena. You can get help. There are resources. I know. I've tried. But David's connected Miranda. He has friends in law enforcement. Lawyers. Judges. He's built a wall around me and I can't break through. She looked at me with desperate eyes. That's why I came to you. Because you escaped. You got out. And I thought if I could understand you, understand how you did it, maybe I could do it too. I understood then. The copying. The studying. It wasn't malicious. It was survival. I'm sorry, Elena said, and she was crying openly now. I know I scared you. I know I went too far. I know it was wrong. But I didn't know how else to reach you. Didn't know how to ask for help without him finding out. I pulled her into a hug and she collapsed against me, sobbing. It's okay, I said, stroking her hair. It's okay. You're not alone anymore. Here's what they don't tell you about divorce. You think once it's over, you're free. You think you've escaped. But sometimes the past doesn't just haunt you. It repeats itself. And when you see someone trapped in the same cycle you fought so hard to break, you have 2 choices. Walk away, protect yourself. Or turn around and fight. I chose to fight. Over the next 2 weeks, Elena and I planned. We met secretly, always in public places where David wouldn't think to look. Coffee shops in West Ashley. The library downtown. My apartment late at night. She told me everything. About David's control. His manipulation. His threats. And I told her what I'd learned from my own marriage. How he operated. His weaknesses. His patterns. We gathered evidence. Elena had been smart. She'd been documenting everything. Photos of bruises when he'd grabbed her too hard. Recordings of his verbal abuse. Copies of his threatening texts. And she had access to his study where he kept his files on me. We also contacted a lawyer. Not one of David's friends, but someone from Columbia. Someone who specialized in abuse cases and had no ties to Charleston's old money network. And then we confronted him. We chose the Haversham house. The one I used to live in. The one David had kept after the divorce. Elena arranged for him to be home on a Saturday afternoon. She told him she wanted to talk about their marriage. I arrived 15 minutes later. I still had a key. David had never changed the locks. He probably never even thought about it. I walked into the living room and David was sitting on the couch. The same couch I'd picked out 12 years ago. He looked up and his face went white. Miranda. What are you doing here? We need to talk, I said calmly. All 3 of us. Elena stood next to me and together we looked like sisters. Like twins. Like 2 versions of the same woman David had tried to create. His eyes darted between us. I don't understand. Yes, you do, I said. I placed the folder on the coffee table, the one full of his surveillance on me. You've been watching me, David, for 5 years, and you've been abusing Elena. That's ridiculous. Stop. Elena's voice was steady now. Strong. We have evidence. Photos. Recordings. Your files on Miranda. If you don't leave us alone, we'll go public. We'll go to the police. We'll go to your business partners. Everyone will know what you've done. David's face flushed red. You can't prove anything. Actually, we can. I pulled out my phone, showed him photos of his files, his texts to Elena, the surveillance photos of me. You're not as careful as you think, David, and you've underestimated both of us. For a long moment, he just stared at us. And I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Fear. Because for the first time in both our relationships with him, we had the power. Here's what's going to happen, I said. Elena is filing for divorce. You're not going to contest it. You're going to give her a fair settlement. And you're going to leave both of us alone. Permanently. No more surveillance. No more threats. No more control. And if I don't, then everyone will know what you are, Elena said quietly. We'll expose everything. Your reputation in Charleston, your business relationships, your standing in society, all of it will crumble. Because abuse doesn't play well with old money, David. You know that. He knew. I could see it in his face. He was calculating, weighing his options, wondering if we were bluffing. We weren't. You have 24 hours to decide, I said. After that, we go public. We walked out together, Elena, and I leaving David sitting on that couch in stunned silence. Outside, Elena turned to me, and for the first time since I'd met her, she smiled. A real smile. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. He might fight. Maybe. But I'm not afraid anymore. Neither was I. David didn't fight. He agreed to everything. The divorce. The settlement. Leaving us alone. He was too smart to risk his reputation, and we'd backed him into a corner with no escape. Elena's divorce was finalized 4 months later. She got half of everything, which was substantial. She also got her freedom. We're not friends exactly. Too much strangeness in our history for that. But we're connected. We check in occasionally, text every few weeks, meet for coffee when she's in town visiting Charlotte. She moved to Atlanta for a fresh start, changed her name back to Martinez, started therapy, took up painting. She's good at it, apparently. Charlotte bought one of her pieces for her apartment. And slowly, carefully, Elena stopped looking like me. She cut her hair even shorter, dyed it dark, developed her own style, became someone who wasn't me and wasn't David's creation. Just herself. Finally. As for me, I realized something important. I'd been living cautiously, afraid of being noticed, afraid of attracting attention or problems. But that was just another form of David's control. He'd made me afraid even after the divorce. So I stopped being afraid. I started dating again. A nice man named Gabriel who teaches history at the College of Charleston. He likes that I'm opinionated and independent, likes that I have my own life. I hired a new assistant for the shop, a young woman named Jasmine who's studying art conservation. She's brilliant, and I'm teaching her everything I know about antiques. I planned a trip to Europe with Charlotte, 3 weeks in France and Italy, visiting museums and estate sales and eating our weight in cheese. We're leaving in September. I started saying yes to things. Invitations, opportunities, risks. I live louder now, take up more space, refuse to apologize for existing. Charlotte called last week and said, "Mom, you sound different, happier." I am happy. Because I'm not looking over my shoulder anymore. I'm not waiting for someone to take what I've built. I've claimed it completely. All of it. The good, the bad, the messy, complicated reality of being fully myself. There's an antique concept called patina. It's the evidence of age and use that actually increases value. Every scratch, every mark, every sign of a lived life makes the piece more authentic, more beautiful. Collectors pay premium prices for good patina because it's proof the piece is real, has history, has survived. David wanted to keep us pristine, controlled, perfect. Like we were objects in his collection meant to be displayed but never truly used, never allowed to age or change or develop our own character. But we were never meant to be perfect. We were meant to be real. 6 months after Elena moved away, a package arrived at my shop. Inside was the Art Nouveau hand mirror she'd tried to buy from me that first week we met. The one that belonged to my grandmother. The one I'd refused to sell. There was no note, but I understood. She was returning her reflection. She didn't need mine anymore. She had her own. I placed it in my window display, catching the afternoon light. It's beautiful. Tarnished, aged, imperfect, real. The silver backing is spotted with age. The glass has a few tiny bubbles from the original manufacturing. The frame has scratches from a century of use. Perfect. Because here's what I've learned, honey. They say everyone has a double somewhere in the world. Someone who looks like you, lives like you, walks through life in parallel steps. I found mine, but she taught me that the most dangerous person to become isn't someone else. It's the version of yourself that someone else demands you to be. The real courage isn't in being perfect. It's in being imperfect. Messy. Complicated. Real. Scratches, patina, and all. I think about that sometimes when I'm in the shop late at night cataloging new pieces. Each object that comes through my door has survived, has history, has been loved and used and sometimes broken and repaired. That's what makes them valuable. Not their perfection, but their authenticity. Same goes for people. Elena and I survived David. We survived his control, his manipulation, his attempt to shape us into something we weren't. And we came out the other side more ourselves than we'd ever been. That's worth more than perfection any day. So if you're listening to this, and you see yourself in our story, if you recognize the patterns of control in your own life, hear me when I say this. You are not an object to be molded. You are not clay to be shaped. You are already whole, already valuable, already enough. And the person trying to change you, they're not doing it out of love. They're doing it out of fear. Fear that if you're fully yourself, you won't need them anymore. They're right. You won't. And that's a beautiful thing. I'm Miranda Rowe, and that's the story of the two Mrs. Havershams. The one who was, and the one who almost became. Both of us found our way out. Both of us found ourselves again. And honey, that's the best ending I could ask for.